Boom. Good morning, Facebook. Say good morning, Facebook.
Say good morning, Facebook.
That flash flood watch stays in effect all throughout the day today. We could be seeing some very heavy rainfall with these thunderstorms moving through the area.
Hey, Margaret Erwin's watching. So is Paul. What's up, Paul?
Jim Quigley's watching.
I'm watching.
Yay.
30 seconds.
Well, it can pick you up real good. Yeah.
I'm not trying to block you out.
There you go. Just like that.
10 seconds.
Hi, Valerie.
5, 4, 3, 2.
Good morning. This is Recovery Talk. Recovery Talk is hope and help for the hurting. My name is Jim Quigley. I'm your host. And this morning we have a reoccurring guest, or a guest for the second time, Margaret Erwin, with us this morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for coming here, Margaret. Just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Freedom Auto Tech. Freedom Auto Tech is the newest auto shop here in town. They're ready to service all of your auto needs, and they're running actually a contest right now. You can go online, freedomautotech.com, or visit their Facebook page, and you can enter to win the grand prize of $500 worth of work done to your vehicle. But that's not it. If you sign up, there's all kinds of discounts being given out, but you're running out of time. It's only to the end of the month, and they'll be doing a drawing. Last time I checked, there was over 100 people that had signed up already. So hurry up and get yourself signed up so that you can possibly win the grand prize. And you know what? That grand prize is actually transferable too. So you can enter the contest. You win, you can give to somebody as a gift. So there's Todd already getting the contest popped up for us. If you're watching on Facebook, which we have a couple friends. Hey, Rich, Valerie, Paul, and thanks for watching, and spread the news around. Hey, if you want to be a part, today's going to be a discussion show. We're going to be talking about this new bill that is either passed or about to be passed. I know there's agreement on it. I read a New York Times piece last night. I see Margaret's looking at Vox News right now. But there's actually a bipartisan bill that has been agreed upon in our government. It's, from what I understand, $8 billion going towards battling the opioid crisis. We mentioned it last show, but I believe it deserved a lot more discussion. So I asked Margaret, who has if you haven't seen her story, she shared a bit of her journey with us in previous episodes, which you can go on our Facebook page and watch. Recovery Talk is the Facebook page. Go to Recovery Talk and look at past episode. I believe you're episode 3, I think.
I think it was June the 18th or 19th, maybe?
Okay, June 18th or 19th. That's even more helpful. So you can go back and watch her testimony, and she's run the gamut. She's struggled or been in the recovery of trying the business of trying to recover for many years. I share some of that journey, and so I thought she would be a good person, plus a female, and female sharing a perspective. And I do remember one little thing you said last time when I kind of shared my opinion on Suboxone or Subutex or buprenorphine, which is going to be a lot of today's discussion. And you had a differing opinion of mine, and you know what? That's what this show is all about. Just getting out there and talking about recovery and how people view things. So anyway, here we are. Okay, I think I've gone through all my intro stuff. I'm going to start rambling if I don't cut it off. So, Margaret, so you, I asked you to be on the show and look at the bill. What are your first takeaways about it? I see 3 main areas they're trying to to combat the opioid crisis by addressing. Did you come away with it any more? The buprenorphine, the mail restrictions, and making it easier for people to, through Medicaid, go to rehab, and lightening up restrictions about what that looks like too. That's pretty much what I came on with it. What about you? Did you see any other? Because I think we're gonna probably camp in those three areas. If you didn't see something else maybe more important we need to talk about or add.
No, I think that's pretty accurate. However, my first response after learning about this was, how are they going to pay for it? And then I think back to the HIV/AIDS epidemic back in the 80s and 90s, and that was quite expensive. But they have figured out a way to work with those people and to provide help for those people, but they don't seem to be putting forth the effort. It just seems like a lot of, okay, well, we need to have this board in place that will take care of this and this. I mean, it seems like a lot of hope to do something, but then the action didn't seem like it came to fruition or would bring it to fruition. And I've read some experts have said, I mean, you mentioned the $8 billion, but it's going to be a lot more than that.
I agree.
This epidemic is, it's insane, and it affects everybody, whether directly or indirectly. And so, there's so many facets to this bill that they're trying to impose, and I'm not sure that it's going to be all that helpful.
Yeah, I kind of walk away with it the same, and at first I think I read it, and I'm glad I kind of took some time away from it, because I looked at it and I was like, you got a whole bunch of people that have no firsthand experience of drug addiction or anything, trying to come up with good ideas in a room. And I'm sure they're asking experts, but I mean, how far down that expert pole do you have to go before you get to somebody that actually makes some sense? Because you can look up statistics right now. We have here's one of the first big problems. You have a last time I looked, $38 billion industry that is a business model of, hey, we can legitimately and legally charge insurance companies, because you've made it possible to bring people in that have these problems, people that have the problems and have the insurance to be able to pay for these places. They're throwing them. I mean, you could literally right now, a number of places, if you do a Google search, there's Google ads for places, right? If you call them and you give them legitimate insurance information, they will send you a plane ticket. They will say, where are we flying you from to get you here? We will buy the ticket. They want you in their place because they know they can make money. So I'm not saying that automatically makes all these places bad, but I'm saying that this is one of the big problems. You have an industry that has a business model that's making more money every year, right?
Right, and
so,
they recognize the insurance will pay for it, and usually it's 28 days, and then they throw them back out, and that, to me would indicate, because I was a chronic relapser for years, because I went to 28-day programs or shorter programs, but I think another thing we need to talk about today is education. We need to educate these doctors. We need to educate the emergency room workers, the hospital workers, and talk to them and let them know, and even as far as down to the families. Because you see a lot of families that want to help, quote unquote. However, they're not helping. They're enabling.
Yeah, that was kind of my point. It's like here's the people that are getting to talk to these lobbyists and these political people making bills right now, that this business model has made a lot of people rich, right?
Absolutely.
So you got people that have very successful rehabs. If you can't see me right now, I'm putting quotations over rehab, but they're very nice places, well run, but they're not necessarily providing results.
Right.
But they're making a lot of money, so someone like in Congress, they're looking at a person like that. Well, they're obviously doing something right because they're successful, right? They are making a lot of money. They have a very nice place. It all looks very good on paper. They have a great marketing. So let's ask them their opinion. What is the information they're going to give? They're going to make it make it easier for people to come here. So basically, we're addressing one of the big things that that this bill is going to do. There was a restriction from what I read that they would not allow insurance or Medicaid to pay for programs that housed more than 16 people in a room. I think it was in one room, or like a dormitory style.
Right.
And because they did not want to provide easy funds for places that were just like making these giant dormitories full, which is not hard to do. And they've lightened that restriction,
Right.
I believe. So now there can be more than 16 beds in one building in order to house people, and Medicaid will pay for it. So there's one thing, but again, this is allowing now, again, the large industry to now tap into the Medicaid money that was already doing private insurance. Now they can say, hey, here, and I know of a place right now where I'm from, South Florida, which is known as the recovery capital of the world. They call South Florida the recovery capital of the world because there's more recovery centers and halfway houses per square mile than anywhere else in the world. Mm-hmm. So there's actually one place I know of right now that has like multiple different campuses. One's for like famous people, and then like they can have their cell phones and computers, and they have like their private, like basically apartment or condo and all that. Then they have like a step down from that for people that are, kind of wealthy. Then they have like a place for people that have like regular bare bones insurance, and they've literally bought a hotel that actually is 10 minutes from where I grew up. They bought a whole hotel, and they have I think it's like 4 people per room. So imagine a hotel with, I don't know, a couple hundred rooms,
right.
And they have the whole the dining area and whatnot is all made into offices now. I think that they have a new counselor every week because people use this as a stepping stone to get other jobs, and it's crazy. I know a guy that came to our program, went there 8 times, and he said it worked great because my insurance would keep paying for it, and they would pay for the extended program, the original program's like 30 days, and then they finagled some stuff to where he could do his extended outpatient, but they'd let him stay there, and just the way they worded it, and he could stay down there for like 8 months. And he said, and it was great, man. I just had to go to a meeting, see the counselor, and then I'd go hang out by the pool with everybody. And then we had bus rides to the beach, and
sounds like a great vacation.
Yeah, it's kind of what it was. So basically, what this bill is going to do is make it easier for insurance companies to flow money into an industry that, if anybody with an open mind looks at it, would realize real quick that they're not producing very good results.
And they're manipulating the system.
And why would you question a place that is not producing, results as in patients getting better or recovering if they're continuing to make money?
Right.
So there's one of the giant problems already that I see glaring about this. We're seconds away from a break. So look, if you guys are listening, anybody in the listening audience, you want to ask questions on Facebook, go ahead, but you can give us a call, 828-262-1567. It's 828-262-1567. We'll see you back in a minute. Sorry, Paul, it's 2 people. You went to B-Hop. Paul, my buddy Paul from
Yes.
Florida said, I've been there. Lucky dog, I never have to go to those places. I've been to all of them.
At least once.
Yep. Paul, one day you're going to come up here and be on the show, all right?
We accept most insurances such as Medicare, Blue Cross Blue Shield, and many others. It's our privilege to help keep your family protected this flu season. Call any of our stores for more information. Please protect yourself and the ones you love.
They're incentivizing getting people into programs, not helping people recover, but to draw a parallel, we try to incentivize schools to provide a good education by My son is listening.
Aw.
He's just over a week old.
Hey, JP. I question what they consider success.
Yeah.
I mean, does that mean someone completing the program successfully?
Yeah.
Does that mean someone staying clean? Because I know that statistically speaking, you know, from a perspective of the anonymous programs, it's, you know, less than 13% stay clean the first year or beyond a year.
I think it's a good thing to talk about next. It's
Yeah.
like the whole how do we define success, you know?
Absolutely.
So, like my other buddy from South Florida, B-Hop sucks. That's the program we're talking about, B-Hop. It's called B-Hop. It's a nickname for it.
Okay.
I might get in trouble for this, but it's Behavioral Health of the Palm Beaches.
Okay.
It is a giant organization down there. They have this big insurance accepting, like I said, hotel, a place on Singer Island that for celebrities, and then they have a whole halfway house, like private thing that some people that own it separately have like this deal with B-Hop. So you get out of B-Hop and you go to their halfway house, and it's just. I've spoken to the owner of all the halfway houses.
It's a money market.
Yeah, they're making a lot of money down there.
Mercy.
Just over a minute.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm not saying that they're all bad people. I'm just saying that, like, you know, why would they be challenged to change if they have no shortage of clients and none of them are not and they're making money, you know? I mean, you're just not going to. And I'm sure there are some success stories where it keeps them going. They're like, hey, you know, we're doing something right, you know?
Cool mountain air morning. Scare Mother Nature away this fall by supporting the new Carhartt Rain Defender sweatshirt and the always durable.
There's my mom watching now.
Coat and bibs. Insulated boots, Wolverine apparel, women's box, Timberland. Come by and check out our huge Carhartt.
All right, 30 seconds.
Wolverine and Wrangler apparel at all 3 locations. See our unmatched work and outdoor boot selection at the most affordable pricing in the high country. Play hard, play fair, shop local, shop smart, shop with Mother's Food, Cigar Hall. At any of our 3 locations, Gateway Center, 421,
10 seconds.
downtown West
Oh,
Jefferson,
she's
or the brand new
coming.
store.
She's on the road right now, driving up from South Florida.
Oh, yeah.
5, 4, 3,
Your
2.
outdoor gear headquarters. Go Mountaineers.
Welcome back to Recovery Talk. Go Mountaineers. Recovery Talk is hope and help for the hurting. If you are interested in the discussion we're having today about the bill that's about to be passed to help combat the opioid crisis, give us a call, 828-262-1567. That's 828-262-1567. And just want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Freedom Auto Tech. Freedom Auto Tech is the latest, newest auto shop here in town. They're ready to service all your auto needs. They're also running a contest. You go to freedomautotech.com and enter to win a possible $500 grand prize working on your car. But there's also all kinds of other prizes. You get discounts up to 25% off, I believe. So freedomautotech.com, and if you want to give them a call, that's 828-355-4434, 828-355-4434. Okay, so in between the commercials, we were hammering a little bit on the recovery industry, and you know what? I do want to just be a little bit compassionate. I don't want to say that all these people that work at these places are just evil. They're not evil people, but you know, when you go to work, when you get trained to do something, and you make a paycheck, and you have a never-ending client list, and it's just this machine, that continues to grow. I mean, you're not going to question it.
Right.
But see, that's the problem, the continuing to grow part. I mean, I think that to really truly be effective in recovery, you have to desire to not have to perform your job.
Right.
You have to want to not have to do this for a living, right?
Absolutely.
And what is the reality of addiction in this country? It is growing. It is growing at a rate that is shocking. And if you're not shocked by it, you need to pay attention. Okay, So 64,000 people in 2016, and that number has jumped in 2017 to 72,000 people. 72,000 people died from substance abuse, and 50,000 of those 72 were from opioid-related overdoses. So this is think about that. This is a huge, huge problem. I think if you take the war in Afghanistan and Vietnam War, how long was the Vietnam War? It was like 6-7 years, something like that. I just watched a whole 10-part series documentary. I should know that answer. But if you take everybody that died in those years, 1 million people, we had 1 million soldiers over there. Okay, that many soldiers over there. And if you take the people that have died in the war in Afghanistan, we have succeeded in topping the number of deaths in just 1 year with drug abuse.
Right.
Just 1 year. 1 year. And if you ever, I got the opportunity a couple of years ago to visit that wall, the memorial, Vietnam Memorial. I mean, it's sobering looking at how many people are on that wall, you know? And think about it, they would have to extend that wall by, what, a third to cover just 1 year of opioids or addiction.
Yes.
19 years. 19 years. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah, there was a lot of stuff before I think we were officially in war. But anyway. Okay, so here is one of the big driving factors that keep these places continuing on. We were off the air talking about how do people define success. So I get people ask me that all the time, and working in the recovery industry. By the way, for those of you guys that don't know, I met Margaret when she came here and did this show. And since then, she's come to work up here in the High Country for a women's program. And we're just so thrilled that you did that and made that move. So thank you. And it's just amazing how the recovery community works. You know, people meet and they end up serving together and trying to work themselves out of a job, like we were just saying. But anyway, if you haven't yet, you're going to get a lot of people asking, what's your success rate, you know? And it's always a very, very difficult question to answer, right?
Absolutely. I remember going through multiple rehabs and detoxes, and I would call these places, and that was one of my first questions. That's the question that my parents wanted to know. What is your success rate? But how do you qualify that? What do you consider a success rate? Do you consider it someone who completes the program? I mean, that comes through your program and completes it successfully? Do you consider it someone who stays clean, and then for how long? I know in the recovery community, as far as AA and NA are concerned, they state that it's 13% of people that come into that program stay clean beyond a year, or sober beyond a year, and that's abysmal in my opinion. That's horrible.
And that's actually pretty high from when I've heard lower numbers than that.
Really? And
I've heard it's an anonymous program,
right.
So
right.
I've heard that as low as 2 to 5%, 2 to 4%. So,
but either way, I mean, it's not great. And so, if these people are considering that, they have a successful program because they can keep people for a certain amount of time while they have the insurance paying for it or Medicaid or whatever they have paying for it, then, how does that define the success?
So this is what we're trying to do: educate listeners and watchers of this. This is how recovery places come up with numbers of success. Okay. It's very easy to manipulate. You just change a variable, right? So we need to boost our success rate. So let's base our rate of success for people that finish up to this point in our program, or someone that's reached this goal, or someone that has stayed sober for, we contact them 1 week after leaving our program, and you know what? The ones that tell us over the phone that they're still sober a week, they're now going to the success pile, right? But then they don't ever talk to them again after that. So it's very, very suspicious when people brag of very, very high success rates. And we struggle with this at our own program. How do we define success? And this is the way I say define success. I had an opportunity to present to somebody what I believe in their core of their life. What they need in order to navigate life. I have a very specific belief. I believe that is found in the Christian faith. So I'm able to bring people here, keep them sober long enough to present that. The people that I get to do that, I believe that's success. And I want to tell you that, I've been doing this now for 7+ years, and more people that come here and go through at least that portion of our program, they end up leaving and relapsing. They do not stay relapsed very long. I have more people today that relapse and then quickly get back on the horse per se, or on the wagon or whatever, and they have the tools in order to get back into. So it's not like back to zero again or anything like that. So I count that as success. I think that's success. People that can get back out of it after they've relapsed. So
once you know, you can't not know anymore, and so that messes up your future high.
Yeah. And I learned that back when I was in the anonymous groups myself back in my 20s. And there is truth to that. But I got to tell you that personally, in my experience, I stayed in my relapse for 5 long, very, very painful years until I had a heart attack. And I was almost, in a way, forced into a program. But, not forced. No one drugged me here. But, I really just didn't have any other options,
Right.
But what I'm talking about is like people that leave here and they don't reach that part of a bottom again, and they kind of get back on it. So back at another break. Sorry, but we'll be back here in just a minute.
Man, this computer's being such a pain in the butt. I don't know what it's doing. It's freezing up like every 20 seconds. Alright, we're good now. We're good.
Janice, we love Jason.
Scribble Boone Area Chamber of Commerce on the top of that and stick it in that PSA folder.
Thank you. Yep. Hey, Kyle.
Senator Chuck Grassley is the chairman of the committee.
No one better equipped to question the witnesses than Rachel Mitchell. Miss Mitchell is a career prosecutor, civil servant.
This guy Grassley had a hard time just reading his statement. He was like saying all kinds, I think he's like 81. It's like, dude,
Right.
Senator Dianne Feinstein received Ford's confidential letter accusing Kavanaugh.
We're here to decide whether to evaluate this nominee to the most prestigious court in our country. It's about the integrity of that
The
institution
White House is going to just
and the
explode.
integrity of
Oh,
this.
yeah,
Washington's
I think everything's going to
like that.
explode today.
Police still frantically searching for
Let
the
it happen.
6-year-old boy who was running away from the
You know what? This is one of my favorite things to do every week is come and do this show. But I'm like, I can't wait till it's over so we can go
Then
watch
go
what's
watch
going
what's going on. Yeah, that's what I was watching before I came. I was like, wow, this is insane. I mean, he said he didn't even know one of the ladies, and
The last one, the one that claimed that he was running a date. That one's just so ridiculous.
There's so many things that are ridiculous.
She's like, I went to this party, they're drugging girls and gang raping them in a room, and she went to about 10 of them,
why would you
at
think you
least.
need to go? And why would you wait so long to say anything?
I mean, are there people actually saying that, hey man, this guy's terrible, by hearing that story? It's
Right.
like,
Well, I mean, they can't prove anything. I mean, there's been no proof. And then those other 2 men came forward to say that they were the ones.
when I was 18 and I went to a party that was going on, I would not continue to go to those parties.
Right.
Those who missed major damage are asking, how
It
can I
doesn't help
Over
when
the
there's so
coming
many
days,
people like
weeks,
this
and even months,
individual
your
who's just like, you know
contributions
what,
will be most important. The
I
Red
can
Cross,
say this
Salvation
to,
Army,
you
and
know,
other organizations have
slander
already
their character
mobilized and need your
and get
support.
something out of
For
it,
information,
because
go
when
to
you start doing that and
redcross.org
people start
and
doing
or
that, then it
salvationarmyusa.org.
discredits
Thank
almost
you. Together,
any
we can
actual
rebuild lives.
accusation. There's one story of this one guy who was like a 5-star high school recruit going to college. Woman accused him of rape. He went to prison for 6 to 8 years. After that time, she's like, yeah, I lied about it. And he was on course to be a college stud and potentially an NFL player.
Yep.
But he was in prison for 6 to 8 years.
Carolina Journal, your number
Because she
one
could.
source for government news
It's terrible.
that affects you. Visit carolinajournal.com today.
92 pallets full of supplies packed and headed to New Bern to help victims of
Oh.
Hurricane Florence.
I thought this was
Three
the
massive tractor
the
trailers
load of like bananas or something they found with like 18 pounds of cocaine in it or something.
donated by
Wow.
Carolina
Yeah.
Hurricanes fans.
Not for the hurricane relief. It was in the
Oh.
news not too long ago.
It's like, wow.
Supplies to preseason games. Games president, General Manager Don Waddell, told WTV it's important for the franchise to support the entire state.
It's important for us, especially for this region as far down east. You know, those folks come here for events, and it's important for us to support them.
Waddell went back to his construction roots, operating a forklift to put supplies into tractor trailers. As the flu season approaches, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
Did you see Trump
issuing a
at the
warning
UN
the number of deaths
on
from
Monday
the
or
illness
Tuesday?
topped at
I saw
8,000
pieces of it. I didn't watch the whole thing, so.
CBS News correspondent Anne
I mean, Nikki Haley said more than he did, but
Experts say it was a very
Mm.
bad flu season because the type of virus
He has
and
a lot of
the
lip service.
vaccine didn't work very well. In recent
It's
years,
ridiculous.
flu-related deaths range from 12 to 56,000 people. Flu-related complications include pneumonia,
Right.
stroke, and
The
heart
moment you bring
attack.
money into it.
Season
Mhm.
peaked in
There it
February
goes.
and
Someone
was
must have
over by
benefit.
the end
Mhm.
of March.
President Trump held a press conference on Wednesday afternoon on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly, taking questions and speaking on numerous topics. He criticized his coverage in the news media, but made a prediction.
But I think ABC, CBS, NBC, The Times, Washington, they're all going to endorse me because if they don't, they're going out of business. Can you imagine if you didn't have me?
The EPA has dropped 26 counties in North Carolina's
Ugh.
requirement for vehicle emissions inspection.
He's funny.
A statement from the
He's
agency
hilarious.
said finalized a rule change for
People don't know. Like I try to. I mean, I know that I mean, I'm kind of a politics nerd, but
Orange County.
man, I try to tell people that aren't paying attention. It's like you just don't realize the history that's being made right now. They're gonna be talking
Oh,
about
I
this
know.
when we're old. We're super old. They're like, do you remember that guy?
All throughout the day
You remember the stuff he used to say?
Very heavy rainfall with these thunderstorms moving through
Alright,
the
20
area.
seconds.
Not only that, but thunder and lightning as well as gusty winds will be a concern with these thunderstorms, so you want to be prepared for that. As we move into the weekend, we'll start to dry out just a little bit, so some relief is
Alright,
in
10
sight.
seconds.
From Severe Weather Center 9, I'm meteorologist Jacqueline Shearer for High Country Radio.
5,
This
4,
is
3,
WATA, AM
2.
1450 and 96.5 FM.
Welcome back to Recovery Talk, Hope and Help for the Hurting. If you want to be part of the show, you got a question you want to call in and be part of the discussion, 828-262-1567, 828-262-1567. And give Freedom Auto Tech a call if you're having any trouble with your vehicle. 828-355-4434. That's 828-355-4434. Freedom Auto Tech is a new auto shop here in town. They're running a contest even, freedomautotech.com, giving away $500 worth of work along with other prizes, discounts on your car. And I always forget to say this, but all the proceeds, all the profits from the auto shop go to support a men's recovery program, which is Freedom Farm Ministries. So we're back. We're filling up more time than I thought, but we were talking about success. We were talking about the recovery industry. I want to kind of go back to that because what you were saying earlier, like the amount of money that went to combat the AIDS crisis, that was in the New York Times article I was reading, and that's like the Democrats, what they didn't get. They wanted more. They really wanted more money to go to funding people to get help in inpatient recovery. That's what they wanted. They wanted more money, and they were like, look, we were able to provide a lot more money during the AIDS crisis for people that couldn't afford the medication, people that couldn't afford to see the doctor. We were able to provide like a pathway through funding to get people to see doctors and get medication. And the thing is that if you're still throwing money at people to go to something that's not providing results, it's different. It's not the same. I understand that they're trying to relate this to the AIDS crisis, but it's not the same, okay? Right. The AIDS crisis, we had, it's a disease that you have that you could get medication for to help with the symptoms of the disease. I mean, we're getting close now to where people that get it, they actually, can live the rest of their lives, right? So but see, that's not how you. It's not like treating the opioid crisis. Okay, you can't just throw money at people to go see doctors, and this leads to one of the other parts of the bill. So what they've done, and this totally fits the mentality of so many people that are frustrated with, having loved ones in addiction. They're like, don't they just make a pill that you can just give them can't they just like go to the doctor and get something to where and there are some things in the market, and they've just made it very easy for people to now, through this bill, or this bill will make it much more easy for people to get a drug called buprenorphine. Okay, we need to explain to our audience what buprenorphine is. Okay, back in the day, heroin users were given a drug to come off heroin, and that drug was called methadone. Methadone was meant to be used like a 28-day program, like a 28-day methadone step-down thing. Okay, so what the idea is that when you are physically dependent on opiates, okay, if you just stop taking them cold turkey, you will get very sick. But I always remind people, it won't kill you, okay?
Right.
It will not kill you. I get people all the time, they're like, well, my son can't just stop taking it, he'll die. No, he won't. He'll just feel really crappy for a little while. Okay?
Alcohol and benzos could kill you.
Yes, it's
However,
different with
opiate.
alcohol and benzodiazepines, but I'm talking about opiate addiction.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you something. It's almost, in my opinion, better to make them go through the sick. Okay, it's almost better. That's my personal opinion,
right.
Because it just makes you much more reluctant to take it again. Because you go through that. Now, I've kicked. That's the term used to get off opiates on your own cold turkey. I've kicked opiates a dozen times. So, personally, and you know what? I can do it. It's not that bad. It's not that big of a deal. It's more, I think, in my opinion, you make it in your mind. Again, my opinion. Anyway, so back to the drugs. So methadone used to be what's prescribed. Methadone is still widely prescribed. There are still methadone clinics, but guess what? It's no longer a 28-day thing, step down. I know people have been methadone for years.
And it's highly addictive.
Highly addictive because guess what? It's an opiate.
Right.
It's an opiate. So people go and people that are, the majority of people that I know that go to methadone clinics are now in the methadone bondage. Okay, they have to go every day. They have to pay their money every day, and they get their drug. And then on the weekends, they get what's called take home. They get to take home their doses for the weekend, and then can you imagine living like that? Imagine living for years, having to do a clinic every day. If you miss the clinic, guess what? You're going to feel like death. You're going to feel like death. So you have all the motivation in the world. And most of these people, they don't have a lot of financial resources. And, this is a giant expense. So what has happened is they came out with a new drug over the last, 10, 15 years called buprenorphine. Buprenorphine is just like methadone. It's basically all it is. It's just like methadone. You take buprenorphine, and guess what? Buprenorphine is a opiate, and it's an opiate is so much so that there are actually people that if you don't use opiates for a while, you take a buprenorphine strip and you get high like you've done opiates. But basically, it was meant to do the same thing, to give people a step down thing to step them off of opiates. But what does it end up doing? They end up getting prescribed to people for years. And now there's buprenorphine clinics. There's a couple in this community right now. I know where they are. And I can go there at certain times of the day, and you see the parking lot is full, and everybody's sitting there waiting for the doctor or whoever it is. So what has happened is that now this bill is going to allow way more people the legal ability to prescribe buprenorphine. It has been a highly restricted thing. You had to get a special license. You had to be a certain level of a doctor. Now, nurse practitioners for the next 5 years are going to be allowed without, I think, much but maybe a training on the over a video chat or something like that. Maybe fill out a questionnaire. Here, fill out this questionnaire. For the next 5 years, the access to buprenorphine is going to be increased. People are going to be able to prescribe it basically with just being a nurse practitioner. So what do you think of that?
I think that's crazy. I think that it goes back to education. People, I know that when I first began this journey trying to get clean, and this has been 13 years ago, but there were doctors had fewer than 18 hours of any type of dependence to drugs. I mean, any education on that. And it's so worldwide. I mean, it's such an epidemic now that we've really got to educate ourselves and to see, you know, I mean, what's the wisdom here? That's my question. What's the wisdom? And there's no, I mean, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer because everybody's different. However, you know, I think that Congress is trying to figure out what to do about this, but a lot of them, like you said earlier, don't understand addiction, and so I mean, it's just it needs to be a community. I mean, it starts in the communities, and then it goes through the whole United States. But you know, how do we help people and really help people?
Absolutely. And until someone really makes a standard, like this is how we're going to track success. These are the standards, because that is open to interpretation.
Right.
Okay, we've already discussed that. Until someone says no, we're not going to let you come up with how you come up with your success numbers. We're going to actually say this is what is needed to reach success or results. You know, we're never going to really know what the problem is or how bad the problem is. Well, we're not going to know that, and we're not going to know how the treatment for that problem is working today. Right now, again, the only thing that people are basing treatment on is, you know, how nice these places look, how long they've been in business, and you know, basically, if it looks good on paper, I mean,
then
it's got to be good. You know,
right.
If you get enough people while they're in their last week and you've been pumping them full of positive vibes, and you say, hey man, do me a favor, write us a review before you leave. You know, you got all these positive reviews. It's really not that hard to do. And you know what? When you're making a lot of money from insurance companies, then you can hire people to get all that stuff done. A lot of it is marketing. It's pretty much what it is. So until we get that standard about how do we rate success or how do we define success, I really don't think we're ever going to really see. So in my opinion, throwing money at throwing more people in this, putting more people on drugs, I mean, basically you're basically replacing a drug for a drug. Now again, I want to be sensitive. I do know that there are stories of people that have been successful with buprenorphine, and I don't want to rain on their parade that was a bad thing. Hey, we got a caller. You're on Recovery Talk. Hello. Well, I think we lost them. Try back again, caller. Anyway, again, in all this stuff, you have some glimmers of success, or they wouldn't continue to do it, but they latch onto those things, and I think they fail at not seeing, like, in the majority, like, how's this working? Because anybody like you and like me that know about Suboxone clinics, that know about methadone clinics, we know that there's nothing good about them. You know, in our opinion, there's nothing good about them. We're coming down to a break here in a minute, but so buprenorphine, the market names are Suboxone and Subutex. Subutex is the one that has the opiate or blocker in, so that's the one that most people that have a reservation, they don't want to. You
can get high on Subutex.
Oh yeah, you can get high on
I've done
Subutex.
it.
Yeah,
I know.
but it makes it harder to get high on other opiates when you take Suboxone. So because it's got a blocker that doesn't go away for a period of time. So anyway, we're coming up on a hard break. Hey, whoever tried to call in, go ahead and try to call back. But we will be back for the final stretch here in just a minute.
I don't know what happened there. This will be 2-minute break.
Paul, that's awesome, man. Yeah, you do. There's the caller again.
See if I can touch it through just to the point where you can come on. And they're gone. Okay.
Gene Henry III is watching. They're calling Gene my twin.
I don't know.
All right, 1 minute.
He's a really good-looking guy, you know.
Okay. If you say so. But you're just saying that because he looks like you, right? Yeah.
All right, 30 seconds.
The summer fun is winding down, and the weather may be changing, but that just means school and fall mornings are beginning in the high country. That also means new boots and merchandise arriving every day at all 3 Most Boots and Carhartt locations. So come check us out early and often to get the best selection of all the new gear that will keep you warm and dry this fall. Darn Tough socks, Rocky and Danner
5,
boots, King utility workwear, Carhartt,
3,
Wolverine, and Wrangler apparel, Carhartt gloves and accessories. Most Boots has it all.
Welcome back to Recovery Talk, Hope and Help for the Hurting. We had someone try to call in, and we were having a little trouble there, but if you do want to call in, 828-262-1567 is the number to call. That's 828-262-1567. And just like you heard, if you're listening on the radio, but for those of you on Facebook, we are brought to you by Freedom Auto Tech. Freedom Auto Tech is the newest auto shop here in town, ready to service all your auto needs. And they're running a contest too. Win a $500 grand prize, work on your car, or maybe a discount as some of the consolation prizes, up to 25% off your work. So you can the prizes are transferable too. Their number is 828-355-4434. That's 828-355-4434. So I don't want to keep bashing the buprenorphine thing. I think we've kind of talked about it. So basically this bill is going to funnel more money to helping people get into recovery programs easier through things like Medicaid, by reducing restrictions that they had on what a facility needed to look like to be Medicaid accepting, which in my opinion is just going to create more pockets for people to make money.
Right.
And it's also going to make it much easier for people to get put on buprenorphine.
Yes.
So that's the 2 things that are going to happen. 2 main things are going to happen. The third thing that is in this bill is that, okay, so everybody that has watched any kind of news has learned the word fentanyl, or however you want to say it, within the last year. And basically, if you watch the news, you know it kills. It kills people, and how that stuff's getting in our country. One of the ways it's getting in our country is through how President Trump would say, China. Okay, China. It's bringing in lots of fentanyl. So fentanyl is a synthetic opioid that can be made in a lab, and it's getting sent in the mail. Okay, so they are putting some more restrictions on mailing of opioids or chemicals, and also mailing of opioids for people that actually take them for chronic pain. They have to get less in a packet. I forget what that's called, but it's kind of like a new craze now. Pharmacies are now like people that take.
It's like a bubble pack.
Yeah, well, people that take like medications on a consistent basis. Say like I take a cholesterol pill, and I take a blood pressure pill, and maybe I take a antidepressant pill. Well, you can now call your pharmacy, and they send you these like 1 week of daily packs. Mm-hmm. So it's all packaged per day, and you just rip the package open. So they're getting all that stuff minimized to where less is coming out, and you can't order like a 3-month supply anymore and things like that. So that's the other big thing that's happening. What's the deal with the mailing limitations? That's what I'm talking about. The mailing limitations is another way they're trying to combat the flow of these opioids in the mail. Now, what does that do? Okay, if you just look at drugs and how they are, okay, supply and demand is the thing. So if you cut off one type of supply, right, it's just going to invent a new way of getting it in, and it'll probably make things change prices too. Who knows? Maybe they'll find an easier way to get in. It'll lower prices. Maybe it'll be a harder way to get it in and higher prices. But again, little faith that it's going to do very much personally, and I hate to be so pessimistic, but little faith that it's going to really do much to actually combat the opioid crisis. Now, where are the results going to be? Look at the number of deaths per year with opiates. I guarantee you, even after they pass this bill, we will still continue to see a rise, and people that are industry like Margaret and I think it's because nobody's addressing the philosophy of recovery, really. It's basically just, hey, you know what? It's making money. We have clients, so we're not going to question it. You know, does that make any sense?
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, it does.
Unfortunately, it does. So, the other side of recovery that's going on, and the other reason why I have a little bit of a lot of pessimism about this bill, is that you got two people here that are commentating on the recovery industry that work on the whole other side of it, the side that does not get access to any of this stuff. We don't get access to the federal funding, the Medicaid money, and all that kind of stuff. Why? Because we don't follow their philosophy of recovery necessarily. In most states, in order to be a recovery professional, a licensed drug abuse counselor, in most states, you have to go before a board of other professionals, and you have to kind of be in agreement with what they say is how you treat it. Now, according to a lot of what those standards are, I should not be sober, right? I shouldn't be. I shouldn't be sober, but here I am. Mm-hmm. So I have something that's working, obviously, because I'm living proof of it. There's other people that have followed the same path that I have, and it's working. And they had drug problems, and they no longer struggle with that drug problem anymore. But I don't have access to the federal money because I don't follow a standard that they say is the standard that I need to be following. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So there is one of the big problems when it comes to all these other, now the other side of that argument, there's a lot of places that are like us, right? Mm-hmm. Because they're unregulated, because they're terrible, right? They're terrible. There's been a lot of NPR reports of places not far from here, about an hour and a half, that basically become absolute work camps, and there's like no standards whatsoever. They just get people in that have drug problems that have nowhere to go, and they put them to work, and they work them, and people relapse, and they're usually infested with drugs and all kinds of bad stuff going on. But in order to keep it going, the machine going, the donations coming in, they just keep the people working, mm-hmm. and they end up putting this great big stain on people that do things that don't follow the state standards. So the state people and the federal people are like, well, we can't throw money at. Look at these; they have plenty of bad examples to show up. So there's this giant problem. So basically, the point of all that is to say that. I have a feeling there's going to be a pretty big turning in on itself eventually. I mean, somebody is going to eventually get in and say, look, what is going on here? Okay, I mean, we just passed an $8 billion bill, and the number of deaths have gone up again this much. What is going on here? And it sucks that, you know, things have to take that time, and we have to be patient to see things work through our government systems that way, but it's kind of the reality of the situation. Mm-hmm.
So what do you do about it?
I keep doing what I'm doing. Right, me too. Yeah, so I keep doing what I'm doing. I keep supporting recovery. I keep looking for the good. I think I've admitted, and I don't think I know, I've admitted on the program where in my own journey I've gone from one extreme to the next, and now I'm kind of back center right when it comes to the secular world and the Christian recovery world, and I have to be open-minded enough to say, hey, look, there's a lot of stuff over here in this side that's bad, you know, in the Christian world. There's a lot of people that are uneducated, uninformed, and they're not doing things good, and I have to say that there are some things over here that are good, but again, that was kind of like the catalyst for this show to get started. I just wanted to start talking about what is going on in recovery. I want to give people hope that, hey, you know what, people get sober. Margaret and I are both people that struggle. How long did you struggle with substance abuse?
19 years.
19 years, okay? I struggle a third of my life. I don't even know how many, I don't want to tell people the whole thing. Anyway, I struggled a long time, okay? And you know what? I'm sober, and I'm living a sober life. I just had a son last week. And you know what? Recovery is possible. And there isn't a one way as far as a program goes. There isn't someone that says, hey, look, I have the program, okay? And anybody that comes to my program will get sober if they do what I say. No, there just isn't that,
Okay, so if you were to stand before Congress today, what would you tell them?
What would I tell them? I would tell them they need to, like I said, we need to talk about how we come up with numbers of success. And if we're going to throw all this money at getting people into these programs, how do we know these programs are going to help them, right? Where are we getting this standard from? And I would want to start that conversation with them. And like I said, I think there's some good things. There are some absolutely scientifically founded things when it comes to when addiction in the brain, and we could have a whole show on that.
Right.
But I'm going to tell you that it's not what I often brag. I think one of the things that the biggest contributor to the recovery industry, which was Alcoholics Anonymous, one of the biggest truths they brought to the table, I think is true today. It's a spiritual problem.
Yeah, and like you're saying, in our opinion, they have a God-sized hole they need to fill.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's just the truth of it.
All right, so we're down to the last 30 seconds. Mike, the oldest 25-year-old I know, has just told me that I can't talk much more. But good morning to my aunt, Nancy, that is Aunt Sibby. I always call her Nancy because I see her name, but Aunt Sibby, that from Florida. Look, for those of you that are listening, for those of you watching, pass the video. Thank you if you are listening right now and you took time not to watch the hearing, thanks. But anyway, we'll be back next Thursday. We'll see you then.
God bless.
Have you ever been stuck in a tight spot?
Thank you.
Directory service can help.
Hand me the live feed so we can turn them off.
Oops, turn them off.